So today I'm pairing an oldish detective with a much newer rogue and destroying anyone who thinks my generosity should go unpunished as I win with their treasures. Hey everyone, Hex here, and today I'm trying to highlight an unlikely synergy between two creatures. Firstly though, if you'd all be so kind as to drop a like on the video and subscribe below to not miss out on future content. And later this week I have some free untapped.gg premium monthly passes to give out, so stay tuned for that. But onto this deck, and I'm once again using Generous Plunderer, but this time with Delney Streetwise Lookout. So the Plunderer is a 2-drop menacing 2/2 that if you want to can give you an untapped treasure in your upkeep, but if you do that it will also give your opponent a tap 1/2. When the Plunderer attacks, it deals X damage to your opponent, where X is the amount of artifacts they control. This card is so sweet, and the downside of giving your opponent's treasure is massively mitigated if you can kill them before it even matters. That's where Delney comes into the picture though. This creature gives extra triggers to all creatures with power 2 or less. So we are now giving and receiving extra treasures, but when we attack we're doing twice the damage. It gets way out of hand very quickly, especially if you have 2 Plunderers on the battlefield. Other treasure synergies for us today include Magda, that can make dragons for 3 treasures, and the ever so impressive Professional Facebreaker. You can sacrifice treasures for free to exile a card to play this turn. I've also got 1-drop treasure dogs in Goldhounds. You can sacrifice these to accelerate your mana, or use them in conjunction with Magda or Facebreakers for a lot of value. Other cards today include Loran's Escape, and my goodness, this card is invaluable at throwing off opponents' curves. We need to win by turn 5 or 6, otherwise we're just giving our opponents way too much mana, so these are critical if you want to drop an early Plunderer, as is Get Lost. They can destroy most permanents but also give your opponents map tokens. These artifacts help Plunderers do even more damage when they attack. They work so amazing for us today, and I'm running some Brutal Cathars as well. They pair really well with Delney, and I wanted a 3-drop creature that can help us clear the way. Finally, I've got Play with Fires and Helixes. Both commit crimes from Magda and both help finish off games with our secret plan B card in the Great Train Heist. I'm trying to use all the spree cards, and this one fits in here nicely today. It gives you an extra attack step or +1/+0 and first strike, so you can almost replace Delney in a pinch, and your opponents won't necessarily expect this one. I've got 23 lands, but we make so much treasure, and that is the deck. So today stay tuned until the end when I will go over how it performed and any alternatives that I would recommend. But let me spoil one thing for you now. This deck certainly didn't disappoint. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. Sit back, grab a cup of tea, and see how I got on the ladder with this crazy concoction. Alright, on the play. Forgot to hit record, but the moment I saw our hand, I smashed that record button because this is probably the nuts. 2 Plunderers and a Delney with our Get Lost as well. Get Lost, fantastic as it makes 2 artifacts, so I'm happy to use this on our opponent's threats. But Plunderer here, opponent on Azorius, and a Faithful Mending to draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and gain 2 life. So maybe a Reanimator deck. Let's try and win as quick as possible. 2 Plunderers is going to be fantastic for us next turn. This turn though, we can just attack with one of them and take them down to 19. So we did give them a treasure last turn. Khan's Silex, eh? Okay, I mean it's a good one, it will blow up the board, but it is in itself an artifact, so I believe we're going to be able to do some significant damage here. Each Plunderer, when it attacks, is going to do just at least 4 damage. We've got Delney here, which is going to double up anything. They do have a mana open though, maybe for like a Fading Hope or something, so I've got to play this properly. I can't just expect to win. Khan's Silex here, yeah, it would exile, or sorry, it would destroy everything. So let's use our treasure tokens here to cast our Delney. So this is a lethal attack, but like I said, they do have a mana open, so it could be a Fading Hope. No, triggers on the stack. That is 16 damage, and the Plunderers as well would be 4 damage. Let's just Helix them as well. So yeah, a hugely massive win there for us, very quick. Alright, on the play, and I like our hand. We have a turn 1 play with Fire if we want to use it. No Loran's Escape though for the Plunderer. I do think that that card is the glue that holds this deck together. With Loran's Escape, you probably want to play Plunderer on turn 3. Opponent with a Rotpriest though. Okay, well, we know what we're up against now. Let's just Get rid of that with our Play with Fire. We do take a poison damage, which is fine. So we're just going to need to do as much damage as possible. Hopefully they don't have too much interaction and we can get some early Plunderer damage through. Every time I play with the Rotpriest deck, I never have it in my opening hand. I always feel my opponents have that card in their opening hand as they bring it back to their hand from the graveyard. But we'll drop Delney here and we will start our beatdown. We can kill them in a couple of turns. But one thing I know about the Rotpriest deck is they can certainly kill us in pretty much out of nowhere. So Rotpriest makes its return to the battlefield here. Really hope they don't have a second one. Okay, well, Generous Plunderer triggers on the stack here, and they've definitely got something going on here. Okay, it's Serum Snare. Yeah, that's the biggest problem with Generous Plunderer is this. We've given them 2 treasures, and we don't have a Plunderer on the battlefield ourselves. This is why I think Loran's Escape is so important in this deck. We can play the Plunderer again now, but let's go for the Facebreaker, and we will smash. Hopefully the opponent doesn't block. They don't have any mana open, though. So I guess I hope they do block. Well, make 2 treasure tokens here. Alright, so they are tapped out. We can draw some cards with our Facebreaker. Looking for a Play with Fire or a Helix. So we can continue doing this. We have our land drop still to play. There's Loran's Escape. Alright, well, I'm actually going to... Let's play our planes. Let's play Loran's Escape onto one of our creatures just to see what's on the top. There's a Get Lost, which is fantastic because that means we can sacrifice our last treasure here and we can use the other 2 to get lost this Rotpriest. They were tapped out. If they weren't tapped out, I would never have done this. But I think this is fine. This is the amazing interaction here with Facebreaker and all the treasure that we create. This is our way of drawing cards. They have another Rotpriest. Well, I guess I'm kind of happy we killed that last one because 2 on the battlefield may have been our death. We have given them a load of treasure here. I wish the Plunderer had haste. I tried to build a way into the deck to give the Plunderer haste because, for example, attacking with a Plunderer right now would just do 8 damage straight to the opponent. But we'll play the Goldhound here and we'll smash. Now, they could easily have some kind of interaction spell, but playing the Goldhound means we could have sacked it with the Facebreaker if needed. Experimental Augury, okay. They're looking for something. I really want to drop this Plunderer down. We're up to 5 poison. They definitely have another spell, and it's Serum Snare onto our Facebreaker. Alright, well, let's sack this Goldhound, see what we can find. Another Plunderer. Okay. Unfortunately, both of our lands are tapped. And I really want to get a Plunderer down. So I guess this one. And then we'll just play our bluffs here. Ping the opponent down to 11. Alright, I mean, this is close. We're on 6 toxic. 6 poison damage. They have 4 mana, including blue. They're digging. They are using their map tokens onto the Rotpriest. Probably the best thing to do anyway, especially with a Plunderer attacking. This does maybe suggest to me that they don't have any interaction with our board. Certainly not the Plunderer. Island on top, and then another Rotpriest. Okay. Alright, so we're going to have to try and find a way to kill them next turn, because I think they're just going to get us otherwise. And they have a relatively free attack here with a 2-3. Surely they have something else in their hand, because they can't have left the door open for us to win so easily, so readily. Guess we can't quite kill them when we attack here. Plunderer can do 6 damage on itself. Delney another 2. But we have a load of Helixes in the deck, so that's why I'm playing the Facebreaker here, as we are going to gain a load more treasure, and then we can start digging for a way to kill our opponent. So we could have looked for a Get Lost there. Get Lost would have taken out the Rotpriest and given 2 more treasure. But let's go for this particular play. So they're on 3 life. We're looking for a Helix, because I think we're going to die otherwise. So we can start sacrificing our treasure tokens with our Facebreaker. This Facebreaker, I've never used this card before, but it's pretty nice. That is a Brutal Cathar. I mean, does that change? What are the odds if I play Brutal Cathar that they're just going to have a protection spell for that Rotpriest? I think we can dig a little bit further, just as long as we have 3 mana open for the Brutal Cathar if we need it. Okay, Abraded Bluffs. It's definitely not what we need. But we can do another treasure token here. And it is a Battlefield Forge. Alright, let's go one more. We can still play land and Brutal Cathar. Oh wow, there's a play with fire, and yeah, I think this is lethal. We're going to play this. They could counter this spell. I mean, if they do that, we're in big trouble here, but yeah, I mean, this Facebreaker has certainly found the spell we need. I mean, this takes them down to 1, but we have yet to play our land drop this turn, and Abraded Bluffs for the win. I haven't had a desert win yet, and this could be it. They can't interact with this. Can they do 3 poison damage to us right now? This would be a great win, and what a grind against a Rotpriest deck there. Alright, on the draw, and our hand is pretty stacked, so yeah, this is a good one. We could do with an untapped land. We're on the draw, so if I find untapped land, we're going to go for that. I prefer to play the Abraded Bluffs after Magda. Okay, well, we just find a Helix. So I'm quite low on mana in this deck, as I really want to be pushing for treasures. But if you don't have your mana in your opening couple of hands, it is a problem. If you get it, you should be okay with the treasure throughout the game. I think that's the biggest downside I have this deck. We're quite a low curve. But yeah, you want to be hitting at least 3 mana by turn 3. So we have options here for the Plunderer, the Hoardmaster, or the Goldhound. Opponent is playing a Selesnya enchantment deck, as they did play Seed of Hope. We'll go for Plunderer. If they want to ossify this, we can get lost their ossification. So, but it survives, so we're going to get some damage through now. And yeah, we'll just do the same. We'll play Delney this time and attack the opponent here for 4 damage. And yeah, if they ossify one of our creatures, we can get lost it. So I'm not too concerned. We have Play with Fire as well if we need to use that. They're definitely hovering over our cards. What have they got up there? It is a Borrowed Time. Okay, wonder what they take. Okay, they've gone for the Treasure Maker. Fair enough. Feel like they don't want treasures, eh? Commune with Spirits as well to look for a enchantment or land among the top 4 cards, and it is a Spirited Companion. Okay, not the worst card for us to see. And Loran's Escape. Okay, well that is my secret tech in this deck, really. I was playing this a lot in testing, and I just felt that without Loran's Escape, we were having a lot more issues than with this card. We want to protect our Magda, our Delney, and our Plunderer, so I'm very happy to have this. We'll play the Goldhound. We won't go too crazy. I kind of want to get lost that Borrowed Time in their end step, but also hold open Loran's Escape and Play with Fire. Here comes the dog. Draw them a card. Well, I don't hate to see that. I mean, Hallowed Haunting as well. Okay, so they've used the treasure that we gave them. That is obviously the downside of the deck, but it is just par for the course. And I definitely want my Borrowed Time back. The question is, do we Play with Fire the opponent's face or the dog? Or what are we doing? Okay, I've been counting up the damage here, and the best thing for us to do here is get lost at this Borrowed Time. That gives them 2 map tokens, which are artifacts that are going to trigger from the Plunderer and Delney. So it's a lot of damage going through. And we need to do some more damage to the opponent's face. So I'm just going to Play with Fire. And we should... Oh, there's a Get Lost. I mean, that is definitely lethal. This has been a good game here against a Selesnya Enchantment deck. Get Lost has really helped here. This card is fantastic in this deck. Don't underestimate this. Just those 2 Get Lost here means that when Plunderer attacks here, that's going to be 8 damage. I didn't need to play Magda. We have more than enough damage here. Let's just get in there. I was hoping to make a 4-4. I forgot to use a treasure to do that. But yeah, I mean, look. All the way down to 0, and the damage hasn't even gone through yet. Alright then, on the play here, and we'll keep this. It's not too exciting, but it's not too bad either. We have the Great Train Heist. 2 of in the deck. They work quite nicely if you don't have a Delney. They get to do an extra attack step. Opponents won't expect that, but Case of the Uneaten Feast and Case of the Uneaten Feast. Fair enough, they are a Lifegain deck. So we'd love to drop a Delney here, but the best thing to do is drop the Facebreaker, get to make a treasure, and we can potentially maybe make a 4-4 next turn if we shoot the opponent's face. Or their Voice of the Blessed here with our Play with Fire. Okay, so I'm glad we had that open. Facebreaker doing some work, making us a treasure, enabling us to cast this. We make another treasure. And Abraded Bluffs, a nice little way to commit a crime there. That creates a treasure. And we'll play Delney here. So, next turn, we can actually sacrifice our treasures to make a 4-4. We have enough treasure to do that, but we also have Lightning Helix available. Restoration of Eiganjo for our opponent. And 6 damage on board here. We could just Helix the opponent's face here. Let's just wait a second, because I think this might be an opportunity for me to use my Great Train Heist to win that way. I've never done that before, so let's go for that one. I've tried to use all the spree cards in all of my videos, and this is the first one I've had with the Great Train Heist, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be lethal. Yeah, I mean, we can give everything an extra attack step, and +1/+0. So that's 9 damage on board, untap, into another 9 damage. And yeah, my first ever Great Train Heist win there. Alright then, on the draw, quite a weak hand. We have some Play with Fires. Maybe we can use those to try and find some gas. I mean, this is very much, would we ever get, if we got a worse hand than this, would I regret keeping this? I think we'll just keep it and see how that goes, but... Okay, well, Voldaren Epicure suggests we might be up against a slightly aggressive deck. We do find a Plunderer, though, so I'm kind of glad we kept this hand. Abraded Bluffs is the tap land, though, which is annoying. Means we're going to have to play it now. So you could get away with playing without the Bluffs. I've actually replaced the Sundown passes with the Bluffs, because I felt like Sundown Pass was always coming in tapped, and if I'm going to have a tap land, I might as well just have one that does damage. Help with Magda. Opponent with 2 Epicures, and that is a Fading Hope in the graveyard for them. So it looks like they're missing blue mana. So in that case, would I want to play the Plunderer here? I don't think so. Plunderer, they could either just kill as they are a red deck, or we would potentially be given the mana that they need. Or they find their Simic land anyway. And they don't attack, fair enough. So the Goldhound is holding them back. We will Play with Fire one of the Epicures whilst we have some open mana. Really need a land here. Okay, it's a Facebreaker. Alright, well, let's go for Plunderer. We have Loran's Escape available. We have Goldhound that can be used to cast that. Maybe in hindsight, I should have Play with Fire their face last turn to look for a land. Because we're kind of all in on this Plunderer here. There's a Delney on top. Yeah, let's go for it. We are definitely all in on the Plunderer. We need it to survive next turn just so we have the mana for Delney. And if they're playing Epicures, we might be able to use the... use the Blood Tokens, I was going to say, as more fodder, but opponent with a Carnosaur. channeling it to destroy our creature. Alright, we are certainly in the weeds at the moment. And that is loot, the key to everything. Okay. Not a card I particularly want to see on the battlefield. Not a card I've particularly remember ever playing against. Has Ward 1, so let's just shoot it. We're very much just looking for a land. Again, we could have just shot the opponent's face. Maybe that was the best thing to do, but surely we're going to draw a land. Nope. It is the Great Train Heist. Okay. So I regret not shooting their face twice now in this game. But yeah, if you don't draw your right lands, you need 3 lands in this deck. If you don't draw them, you're relying on your Plunderer surviving. That is Malcolm the Eyes. So this game is certainly getting away from us, but we're still on 14. And we're not a million miles away from getting back into this. We just need a land. Get Delney down, get Brutal Cathar, which can trigger twice. And get lost. At least it's something we can play. Okay. So I'm really not sure what we're up against here. Some kind of Temur brew. And it's Tiebinder. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wish that Plunderer survived 1 turn as they crack their clue here. But I won't give up. We'll just keep doing what we can. We'll get rid of their flyer as we finally find a land. Okay, well, we just got to hope that they don't have anything here. Let's eat that Tiebinder with our Brutal Cathar. Very much hoping and praying that we can get back into this game now. I guess we should have played the Delney there first, maybe. Who knows, who knows. Fading Hope on the top for the opponent. Not really what I want to see. And the Epicure now at 3-3 that I really can't block. Well, I don't want to block. And River Herald Scout, okay. Exploring. And a tap land, fair enough. Okay, well, the 2-3 Scout is slightly frustrating. Means we can't play the Facebreaker and attack. We could... I mean, even if I was to attack with the Brutal Cathar and maybe try and ambush this Scout with Great Train Heist, given everything +1, +0, and first strike, they just won't block. And then I'm potentially facing some kind of lethal attack on the way back with Bit of Reunion. So we'll go for Delney. So this deck originally did not have Brutal Cathar in it. It had Godric, and I did have some limited success with Godric. Godric works really nice when you have a Plunderer on the battlefield. But if you don't, Godric was struggling to get flying. So I felt, let's just change it up. Delney and Brutal Cathar works pretty well. But obviously not in this particular game, as we're going to have to chump with our Delney here. And we go down to 2. So by all means, take out the Cathars. If you have another play you want to use, you can do that. I did have Dracosaurs in the deck as well. That was a potential one. Or the Rabbit, that gets bigger and bigger, the amount of permanents on the battlefield. I tried Atsushi. And I also tried Taiwakin, I think it's called. And nothing really worked. So I'm leaving this particular spot open. Opponent with a Sentinel here. And they should just be able to kill us, surely, if they just attack. Gonna have to chump. That is a Breaches on the top. And Fading Hope was in their hand to get rid of my Brutal Cathar. Yeah, so we were kind of mana screwed for way too long in this game. We may not have won anyway, but that was very suboptimal from our deck there. Alright then, on the play. Alright, so we have our Plunderer, we have our Loran's Escape. This is exactly what I want. So I would be reluctant to play Plunderer on turn 2, unless I'm pretty safe that the opponent's not going to remove it. But yeah, Plunderer is exactly the card you want in your opening hand with the Loran's Escape here. Alright, let's go. Opponent had a really good think about if they wanted to keep their hand. And it looks like they did. Into Broker's Hideout, okay. Alright, so we're going to be fighting against a large amount of life gain, but I think this is kind of safe to play the Plunderer. I don't think they played too much interaction. Yeah, another sort of tap land for them, so Plunderer is going to survive. Now, we're going to be giving them treasures, but I don't really care. Another Plunderer. Okay, well, I mean, one Plunderer is great, two Plunderers is absolutely awesome. We have our Loran's Escape. Let's get Goldhound down for some massive damage next turn. Would love maybe a Delney. Really got to hope our creatures survive. That is a Nissa for our opponent. Not too concerned about that right now. We have a lot of damage on board. Plus, all of our creatures have Menace, so they can't even block. But we've certainly come out of the gates firing on this particular game. We'll play the Facebreaker next turn to gain even more treasure so we can start digging for an answer for our opponent's threats. You could play some big creatures in this deck, so when you have a lot of treasure you slam an Atali down or you slam an X-Cost spell down. That will probably be my next iteration here as we make load more treasure for our opponent. Whoa, Delney off the top. Okay, so each Plunderer as it attacks is going to do 6 damage just with its attack triggers. That's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We can get them down to 2. That is very close to being lethal. Facebreaker as well doesn't really do much. I guess we gain a load of treasure back from this. And we can maybe dig for a Helix or a Play with Fire. So yeah, I mean, this is our biggest upside. Boom, 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 boom. Opponent down to 7. Opponent down to 6. I guess Goldhound has... Yeah, Goldhound has first strike. Never really thought about that. We're actually gaining more treasure. So we have an opportunity here. We just need any burn spell here. Come on, Facebreaker. Find us a Play with Fire. Find us a Helix for an amazing win here against a lands deck. Another Delney. Okay. I certainly want to keep my Loran's Escape open if possible. Okay, and a Magda. I guess Magda is better than nothing. Let's just drop Magda. Definitely want to keep the Loran's Escape open. They have so much mana now, though. This is... So that early 2 life gain from their 2 sack lands has really kept them in the game here. There is a lot of incremental life gain in Standard at the moment, and it's very difficult to create a deck that can just do an amount of damage, as their Nissa is going to trigger surely 1,000,000 times right now. So I have a combo deck ready and waiting to go that can do 20 damage out of nowhere, but the amount of times that my opponent is on 21 life or 22 life means it's completely unplayable. I need to find a way to do more or to stop so much life gain. I think that would be a nice card in Standard at the moment, as they are sacking their Analyst to get even more life and even more mana for this turn. I mean, we have Loran's Escape available to save one of our creatures. Not really sure what I'd want to save if they did like a board wipe or something. Are these treasures that we've given them going to come back and bite us in the backside? Who knows? But been having a load of fun with these new cards in this new set. I do feel that the creatures, although really powerful, creature-heavy decks aren't the greatest at the moment in Standard Best of 1, except if you're mono-red. Ossification here, by the way, on our Delney. We can protect that with Loran's Escape. That would give Delney indestructible to the end of turn as well, if they have a mass removal spell. And they just scoop it up anyway. Wow, we got there. Okay then, so let's check back on the deck here, and here it is in its full. So I had a lot of different iterations along the way to get to this point, but I'm really kind of happy with where I am. Having the 4 Plunderers, the Facebreakers and the Delney is kind of the key cards here. Never really sure how many Magdas I needed, but I think 3 is fine. And the Brutal Cathar here in the 3-drop slot. This is the card that I think you could replace, and I've got some options over here. Options that I have tried along the way. So Regal Bunnycorn is really nice as its power and toughness equal to the number of non-land permanents you control. Obviously we main a lot of treasure, but just being a straight up creature with no trample or flying or menace didn't particularly work too well, but go for that card if you feel it. Tywakeen, I was always thinking we generate so much mana. Could we use Ty with Play with Fire and maybe even some of our deserts, but never really got there with that card. I think that's a different deck. And then Godric. Godric was the card I used in place of Brutal Cathar for the longest time. It works nicely if you have the Plunderer on the battlefield. If you don't, I always felt that Godric was just a 3/3 that was attacking, and it really just didn't do enough. At least Brutal Cathar can take a creature for your opponent. Other options, as we make so much mana in this deck, could be something like a Tushi or the Dracosaurs or even like an Atali, but I'm pretty comfortable with where we ended up. I really liked having Delney in the deck, and all of our creatures have just 2 power, so they work really well with that card. So let's check the stats for this deck over on untapped.gg though. And as you can see, we went 6-1 and also 2-1. I don't know why these are necessarily split up, but we did pretty well. There was a couple of losses along the way. There's a white loss here, and then the other one was a Temur loss, but I was pretty comfortable with how we got on here. We seemed to do quite well against a variety of decks. We never came up against a mono red deck, but honestly I haven't seen mono red for a few. That's because I'm in the platinum ranks and maybe they've ranked themselves up to mythic, but I seem to be pretty happy with the matchups we faced. So to check out all the stats though for this video and all the decks I play, the link to my untapped.gg is listed in the description below. So we'll also find a link to download the deck tracker for yourself. You can track your stats, see what decks are being played, and maybe even find a deck or two that you can make with your collection. It is all over there on untapped.gg. But thank you for watching this video, supporting the channel as we grow, and I will catch you again in the next video.